What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here, and welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus check updates, what's going on in Washington, D.C., like the two new upcoming packages, the physical infrastructure package known as the American Jobs Plan, which is part one, and the next stimulus package known as the American Families Plan, which is known as part two. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about here today and some very interesting news for you guys today, including several different checks to talk about, actually. Also, student loan forgiveness news coming out, and an interesting lesson that we will learn from Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader of the Senate, the minority leader. So, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on new updates. I will keep you up to date on everything stimulus related, all the different stimulus programs, all the different checks that are going out or being negotiated on right now, as well as everything going on with our country. So remember, new videos come out every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember those times so you don't miss out on any videos. Also, thank you for giving these videos a like. I really appreciate it. You guys are amazing. Okay, and remember, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. But I think that Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Republicans in the Senate, who is now the Senate minority leader after the Republicans lost the Senate, probably because Mitch McConnell did not pass the Cash Act, which was for that additional $1,400 stimulus check that former President Donald Trump wanted to send out back in December before President Biden even came in office. So I remember former President Trump had the second stimulus check package bill sitting there on his desk. He's like, I don't want to sign this. These $600 checks are not enough. I want them to be $2,000. And the Democrats were like, that's wonderful. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, within like 24 hours or so, passed a one-page bill in the House of Representatives called the Cash Act for a $1,400 stimulus check. Boom, it was passed. Former President Donald Trump wanted it, was a Republican, of course, and Mitch McConnell, his fellow Republican, decided, nah, he wasn't about that life. And unfortunately, we never seen that check. Mitch McConnell set it to his graveyard, and that $1,400 stimulus check kind of died. Now, we do know that President Biden eventually ended up passing that $1,400 stimulus check anyways, although it took a couple months. President Biden had to come in office. The Democrats passed the third stimulus check package without a single Republican vote. They passed it through the reconciliation package or reconciliation process, and not a single Republican voted yes on the third stimulus check package. Albeit we probably missed out on a stimulus check because that would have been passed in late December underneath still President then Trump. And we know that President Biden would have came in and not want to pass any stimulus checks at all. I mean, they're still pushing for more stimulus checks now. So we probably missed out on a full stimulus check. Well, if you're a Democrat, you probably hate Mitch McConnell. If you're a Republican, you probably think, he's not that bad or he's actually pretty good. Kind of like how Nancy Pelosi is the same way. If you're a Republican, you probably hate Nancy Pelosi. And if you're a Democrat, you may hate her too. A lot of Democrats don't like Nancy Pelosi, and a lot of Republicans don't like Mitch McConnell as well. But, obviously a lot of Democrats do because she's from the Democratic Party. Same with Mitch McConnell. But Mitch McConnell is going to teach us an important lesson on how Congress works here. Listen to this.
If you regain the majority in 2022 for the Republicans, and there's a very good chance of that happening, I'll come back to the individual races in a second. Would the rule that you applied in 2016 to the Scalia vacancy apply in 2024 to any vacancy that occurred then?
Well, I think in the middle of a presidential election, if you have a Senate of the opposite party of the president, you have to go back to the 1880s to find the last time a vacancy was filled. So I think it's highly unlikely. In fact, no, I don't think either party, if it were different from the president, would confirm a Supreme Court nominee in the middle of an election. What was different in 2020 was we were of the same party as the president, and that's why we went ahead with it. I do think the issue that you raised is the single most consequential thing I've done in my time as Majority Leader of the Senate. Preserve the Scalia vacancy for the Gorsuch appointment. The Brett Kavanaugh appointment was certainly challenging and controversial, and of course we had very little time left when Justice Ginsburg passed away, and that took a good deal of priority and I think skill to get Amy Coney Barrett through.
I'll explain what he said here in a second. But in short, what Mitch McConnell is saying is that basically the party in power can and should really do anything they want or anything they can underneath their agenda. What Mitch McConnell is, and this is going to hold true for the Democrats, as I'm going to show you here in a second. But Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Republicans in the Senate, who's now the minority leader, is basically saying that what he did in the past on the last year of Obama's presidency, he didn't let a Supreme Court justice get nominated and pushed through for about 9 months before President Obama's term ended. And this is because Mitch McConnell was the leader of the Senate, and basically the Senate and the Senate Majority Leader has they pretty much control Supreme Court nominations. It's basically done through the Senate. You need 51 votes, and if the Senate is controlled by the opposite party, well, then you tend to run into difficulties when a president is, say, Democratic and the Senate is Republican. They can kind of block your Supreme Court justice. Supreme Court justices are very important because number one is currently they stay there for life. So Supreme Court justice could stay there for 50 years or more. Or 30 years, 50 years, however long they live. And a lot of Supreme Court justices, which are like major national rulings in this country, come down to party line votes. Not all of them, but we'll see a lot of votes in the past where like it's 5-4 with 5 Democrats versus 4 Republicans, or 5 Republicans versus 4 Democrats. So it is very important, and it does kind of shape the way our country moves forward. Mitch McConnell is now saying there that in 2024, in 3 years from now, when it's the election year and they're going into the next presidential election, which has a very high chance of being President Biden versus former President Donald Trump, again, a rematch. Mitch McConnell is saying that if the Republicans control the Senate, they're not going to confirm any Supreme Court justices if any vacancies come up. Basically, he's saying, and now here's the funny part, is that Mitch McConnell pushed through a Supreme Court justice just a month before the 2020 election. So when Mitch McConnell was in power, and the Democratic president was Obama, he didn't push through the last Supreme Court justice 9 months before the presidency was over. But when Republicans were in power and it was Republican president, he pushed through a Supreme Court justice just 1 month before the election in an election year. So basically, he's saying, and this is kind of something to teach everybody here on how Congress works. The party in power will do whatever they want and as much as they want. And this is kind of what the Democrats are saying right now, that they've been elected to control the House, control the Senate, and control the presidency, and that the Democrats need to do as much as they can. And a lot of Democrats are even saying, don't even worry about what the Republicans think right now, because they're not in power. And we've seen the Republicans, they'll do whatever they want when they're in power, and Democrats can do the exact same thing. And when we go back in the past, we see this time and time again. If Democrats are in power, if Republicans are in power, they tend to just do whatever they can. They really don't care about the other party. It's like, now is our time to shine, no matter who the party is. And Mitch McConnell proves this lesson to you. Even if you're a Democrat or you're a Republican, you can kind of see, yeah, that kind of makes sense. If you're in power, get as much done as you can, because you're surely not going to be able to do it when you're not in power. And Senator Bernie Sanders, who's the Senate Budget Chairman, largely considered the right-hand man of President Biden, is kind of showing this in kind of a reverse way. Senator Bernie Sanders says he won't vote for any bipartisan infrastructure deal, meaning any deals that Republicans and Democrats both support, because he thinks Democrats should push through a much larger infrastructure and stimulus package. As you can see here, Senate Budget Chairman Bernie Sanders says he won't support a bipartisan infrastructure spending proposal unveiled last week because he believes it does not do enough to address the needs of the country and shields the wealthy from tax increases that also President Biden wants to do. Bernie Sanders' opposition means the proposal would need to garner at least 11 Republican votes in a 50-50 Senate if Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer puts it on the floor and the rest of the Democratic caucus votes for it. Bernie says, I won't vote for it. The bottom line is there are needs facing this country. Now is the time to address those needs, and it has to be paid for in a progressive way. given the fact that we have massive income and wealth inequality in America. This mimics what some other Democrats, especially from the House of Representatives, are saying as well, that the infrastructure package should be much larger. They shouldn't even be negotiating with Republicans when they can pass the infrastructure package on their own. But this kind of shows you how it's tricky in Congress, even when you're in complete power, because we have Senator Joe Manchin on the other side, a Democratic senator from West Virginia, saying that he doesn't really want to vote for the bill if they cram it through, basically with the reconciliation card, the same way they did with the third stimulus check package, and do it without Republican support. Now, he said that last time as well with the third stimulus check package, but ultimately he did end up voting with the Democrats for the third stimulus check package, and they passed it with 100% of the Democrats in the Senate, all 50 of them voting yes, and 99% of them in the House. I believe there was one Democrat that voted no, and the Democrats pushed that through. So it's kind of a tough situation to pass these bills, even if you're in complete control. We have Democrats saying we shouldn't negotiate with Republicans. We should push through larger infrastructure and larger stimulus packages. And then we have Democrats like Senator Joe Manchin saying, no, 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 we shouldn't do that. We should negotiate in good faith with the Republicans, come to a deal between the two of us, and figure out what's best for the country and pass bills that way. Now, remember, Senator Bernie Sanders, as well as Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, are both co-signers for the monthly recurring stimulus checks bill. 20 different lawmakers, over half of the Democrats in the Senate, have signed a letter to President Biden urging him to pass monthly recurring stimulus checks in Biden's infrastructure package. Again, more likely to be in the American Families Plan, the next stimulus package, but these bills can be combined and passed through the reconciliation process as well. President Biden himself has come out this week in support of more stimulus, and actually has convinced the other G7 leaders to all continue to pass more stimulus throughout the rest of the year at a bare minimum, so that it doesn't devalue our dollar and helps bring up not just the United States economy with these upcoming stimulus package and infrastructure package, but all the other economies of the world, at least the G7 large leaders, so that they're all kind of doing the same thing. It won't devalue anybody's money, as well as Joe Biden has said that he's in favor of more stimulus. We're starting to see this more and more come out of President Biden, that the weak jobs report, both from April and May, makes it clear the need for more stimulus, and that President Biden is now apparently open to a fourth stimulus check. And the good news is that Democrats from the House of Representatives and from the Senate are in favor of more stimulus. We continue to see this more and more and more, as more Democrats come on board in favor of a fourth stimulus check, or even the monthly recurring stimulus checks that Senator Ed Markey and Elizabeth Warren are the writers of the bill. But that is the bill that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, as well as Senator Bernie Sanders, are both in favor of. That is $2,000 monthly stimulus checks that would go until the pandemic is declared over. Another thing I want to talk to you guys about, because I just kind of understand how Congress works after following this every single day and giving you guys the news. I can kind of see what tends to usually happen. Sometimes they throw me a curveball and I'll be a little bit off, but most of the time I can kind of see where things are going. And let's talk about right now what President Biden just said about student loan debt forgiveness, or student loan forgiveness, student loan relief. I think that this is also going to end up leading to other types of debt forgiveness, like credit card debt forgiveness, mortgage debt forgiveness, medical debt forgiveness, or tax forgiveness. President Joe Biden's regulatory agenda that was just released mentions student loan forgiveness. The list of regulatory actions, typically released twice a year, outlines how President Biden plans to advance his agenda through each federal agency. According to the Education Department's page, Biden's agenda includes improving student loan cancellation authorities, in which Education Secretary Miguel Cardona will, get this, quote, amend regulations to improve borrower eligibility, application requirements, and processes for borrowers who meet loan cancellation criteria, like being totally and permanently disabled or attending a recently closed school. These two are two rounds of student loan debt forgiveness that President Biden has already passed this year for a total of about $2.3 billion. The department also said it would review the public service loan forgiveness program and plans to look at these regulations for improvements. The page basically goes on to say and has some indications that President Biden might be in favor of more than the previously said amount that he said of $10,000 student loan forgiveness. Remember, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, as well as many other prominent Democrats, want him to do an executive order for more than $10,000. They want $50,000 because what they say is, well, 1 year of schooling could cost $50,000 or maybe 2 years of schooling, depending on what school you go to. But surely you can't get a full college education for $10,000 right now, right? You would look at to get a semester for $10,000 depending on what school you go to. But here's the interesting thing, and this is kind of where politics come into play. President Biden and White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki have announced that it's like 2.5 months ago that the president was going to be having the education secretary, who's Miguel Cardona, look into whether or not the president can pass student loan debt forgiveness for everybody, $10,000 to $50,000 through presidential executive order. Now, the interesting thing is that we haven't heard anything back in about 2.5 months. Now, let's be honest here. We know that they have figured out whether or not they can do this. In fact, Chuck Schumer, who's the Senate Majority Leader and has been in the Senate for over 30 years, as well as almost every expert on executive orders and on student loan debt forgiveness, says that the president can do this through an executive order, which means he can literally just sign a document. It doesn't need to be passed by the Senate or the House. It could simply be passed through executive order. We most recently seen one of the largest executive orders ever passed by former President Donald Trump when he passed stimulus checks, or well, maybe I should call them unemployment bonus checks, however you want to classify those. He passed 6 weeks of unemployment bonus checks, $300 per week, for anybody on unemployment at the end of it was like last fall, from former President Donald Trump through an executive order. Democrats said he couldn't do it. He did it anyways. They didn't challenge it in a court, and thus it held. And if you were on unemployment, you got 6 weeks of $300 stimulus checks or $300 bonus checks last year. But let's be honest, the Education Secretary, Miguel Cardona, knows for a fact whether or not he can do this through executive order. There's no way that he hasn't reported back to President Biden after 2.5 months. They just haven't announced it publicly. And again, me kind of having my finger on the pulse of what's going on in Washington, I'm starting to think more and more and more that they're going to do this by executive order, but they're going to do it after they pass these next two packages. Remember, this is basically going to wipe away billions of dollars in debt for student loan borrowers, which means the government will add it on to the national debt. Now, of course, we know that there's a lot of, first of all, Republicans will hate this. They're all about the national debt. And some conservatives, like Senator Joe Manchin, will think of this as spending. Hey, we just spent billions of dollars. So I don't think that they're going to do this before the next infrastructure and stimulus package get passed. Because if you do it before then you're going to have people like Senator Joe Manchin saying, well, I don't really want to spend all this extra billions of dollars on stimulus packages and the next infrastructure package when we just did all this billions of dollars for student loan debt forgiveness. I mean, if you kind of figure it out, if you kind of think about it, it makes perfect sense. I think they're going to pass the next infrastructure package and the next stimulus package, then do the student loan debt forgiveness by presidential executive order. Then when October 1st comes, they will also get a whole nother round of new reconciliation cards for the new fiscal year. And again, we'll be able to pass all new sorts of packages through the reconciliation process, which means the Democrats can pass them completely on their own. I also think that once we see this mass round of student loan debt forgiveness, which is for about 1 in 6 adults in the United States has student loan debt, I think once that's complete and done, I think we're then going to see a large movement by the Democrats for the other 5 out of 6 Americans who don't have student loan debt, but we could see other types of debt forgiveness then start to be talked about and pushed for, like tax debt forgiveness and mortgage debt forgiveness. Mortgages are actually owned, the majority of them, by the federal government through the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac programs. And mortgage debt forgiveness of, say, $10,000 or $50,000, as well as tax debt forgiveness, could also probably be done simply through an executive order. They could do other types of debt forgiveness like credit card debt forgiveness and medical debt forgiveness, or other credit card debt forgiveness would be huge, but that would probably have to be done through a stimulus package, probably not through an executive order, because the government would actually have to print money for that and pay it through the credit card companies. Let me know your thoughts on this down below in the comments. I'll keep you up to date on student loan debt forgiveness, the Social Security raises that they're pushing for, Medicare expansion, all the different stimulus programs, mortgage assistance, rent assistance, property tax assistance, utility assistance, as well as the fourth stimulus check, and what is going on in Washington and in the United States today. So if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on new updates. I will keep you up to date on everything stimulus check and government related that you need to know about. You can click this video here to watch my newest stimulus check video next. And this video teaches you how to start your own business selling products on Amazon FBA. I've had dozens of students that have replaced their 9-to-5 income selling products on Amazon, and I teach them how to do that. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.